former White House press secretary and America's First Action senior advisor and spokesperson, Sean Spicer. Sean, good morning and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas and good morning, guys.
What do you make of the president's tweet? He is going after Nancy Pelosi. And what do you think the strategy is here for Pelosi and company, as this really can be, this is kryptonite for the Democrats?
Right. I think there's two things here. One is the president's calling out the plain hypocrisy of what happened, but also just to make sure that everyone understands, and I think they do, that this has been purely a political exercise. As far as Nancy Pelosi goes, look, she got dragged kicking and screaming in this. Say what you will about her, but she's a brilliant tactician, and she knew that she has an 18-seat slim majority in the House. 31 of her members sit in districts that Trump won. And so taking the House to this far left extreme position 1 year less than an election was something that was a way to assuage that far left progressive Andrea Ocasio-Cortez squad part of the party, and it was putting her members in on the further sort of the right side of the Democratic Party, if that even exists, in big danger. And so she knows that now that she's maybe checked a box and said, okay, guys, we impeached him, she can maybe figure out a way to get out of this and not have to further this, because the longer the impeachment story is around, it seems the more it helps the president.
All right, so then it doesn't make sense for her to drag this out. It doesn't make sense for then, if that's true what you're saying, to
well, it's not drag it out. There's a difference.
Or just hold it in her pocket.
Well, that's the thing, and we don't know what the answer is yet. But there's a difference between drag it out and maybe just sort of let it go away. Remember, the day after impeachment, the morning after, when she showed back up at the House floor and reporters were asking about impeachment, she said, "No more questions about impeachment." This is not a woman who wants to drag it out. It seems she actually wants to hide it. She wants to give credit for checking the box and saying we impeached the guy. Now let's forget it and move on to other bipartisan things and show that we can all work together. I mean, she did this as an exercise to make sure that the far left didn't go nuts. So I don't know that she wants to, because think about it. How many of those senators that are running for president on the Democratic side would have to come back and camp out in Washington, D.C. and listen to this thing go on and on and on? It hurts her party. When you think about Sanders and Warren and Booker, Klobuchar, all those people will get taken off the campaign trail and have to sit back and watch this. That's not good for her party. So she actually, I think, if she had her druthers, would say, well, I impeached the president, and then let's move on.
Veronica McCleary's got a question for you.
Hi, Sean. This is Veronica Cleary. You might remember I was asking you those questions at the White House about 2 years ago now. But, you know, it's interesting, your point about Nancy Pelosi. I have heard some reports, though, that while she came into this year, you know, thinking that she might not be kept in as Speaker of the House, that her approval rating is pretty high amongst the Democrats, just in how she's handled this. Is there any validity to the argument that Democrats bring to the table that this makes Mitch McConnell look bad, that he won't hold this trial, and that now, I mean, it's silly to argue that it's partisan only on one side, but could she spin this in such a way? You said she's a brilliant tactician. It's you know, maybe not brilliant, but I mean, she's got her ways.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give her a lot of credit for how she's managed the House, and I think you're right, but it's a different institution than the Senate. And if there's anybody that you want in your corner when you've got a matter before the Senate, it's Mitch McConnell. I mean, the rules there are much more arcane, much more complex, and I think McConnell knows the Senate better than anybody else. Pelosi gets credit for keeping her troops in order, but it's a simple majority institution. The Senate is not. And so I think McConnell is much more of a brilliant tactician and strategist than Pelosi. I give her credit for that, but I think the idea that she's holding McConnell, you know, hostage or up for negotiation, I mean, that's almost laughable.
Well, what's interesting here, I want to talk about the Republicans in the Senate, because Alaska Senator Lisa Murkowski, Sean, told a local Anchorage TV station she's, quote, disturbed by McConnell's recent comments that Senate Republicans would act in, quote, total coordination with the White House counsel for the impeachment trial. Your reaction to her?
I mean, that's almost like saying, oh, my God, there's gambling here in the old. It's the idea that it's not political. Give me a break. I mean, you watch the entire exercise go on in the House. It was political. McConnell, of course, is going to coordinate. I mean, it's a silly thing to say, to be honest with you. The idea that politics isn't going on in Washington or Congress or the House or the Senate, you know, kind of doesn't stand up to the smell test.
Well, she's always been a moderate, and I guess she's got to listen to her constituents, which obviously is in Alaska right now. I do want to ask you about the president, though, and kind of the thinking that goes on. You worked with him so closely for years. He's going after California lawmakers over the homelessness crisis, in particular L.A., San Francisco. He tweeted this morning Nancy Pelosi's district in California has rapidly become one of the worst anywhere in the U.S. when it comes to the homeless and crime. It's gotten so bad so fast she has lost total control, and along with her equally incompetent governor, Gavin Newsom, it is a very sad sight. Governor Newsom had slammed the Trump administration for not taking action on his Housing First proposal, but the timing, I think, is interesting that he's wading into, Sean, the California housing crisis and the record number of homeless that are there.
But remember, it's not just, yes, it's that example is in California, but I think it's also subtle messages to Detroit and Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Milwaukee, all these other big cities that are in swing states where they're sitting back and saying, well, wait a second, look at how liberals govern. You've got a liberal governor, a liberal Speaker of the House on the federal side. I think in my mind, it's a very subtle message to every other person that lives in an urban area to say, hey, I just want to show you what these liberal policies do over time. This is the conditions they create. This is what the people look like in terms of their welfare and their well-being. I look at this as sort of making sure that people understand the binary choice that exists this election season, that there is a difference between liberal policies and conservative policies. President Trump, and you guys noted this earlier in the block, I mean, you've got, it's not just the stock markets, but you've got unemployment, you've got job growth. And here's the thing that people have to understand about elections. The economy isn't a bunch of statistics. It is a gut feeling. Either people feel like they're doing better or they feel like they're not. And you can't tell them otherwise. You look back to 1992, and Bush was trying to convince people, look at these record numbers. You can have all the numbers thrown in your face statistically, but if you don't feel the economy is doing well, that you can spend those extra couple bucks or go on vacation or put away a little bit more for your child's education, then it doesn't matter what someone tells you. And right now, the economy is doing well. People feel it. And he's drawing a clear contrast with what the left's policies do to people.
I don't feel it. I see it, Sean. The NASDAQ up 35% year to date. These markets are on fire. Impeachment, trade, drama, whatever. Look at what's happening with the markets.
More important, but remember, Cheryl, the key thing, though, is when you talk to workers, because you can tell them all along, hey, the NASDAQ's up. But when I talk to people who are, whether they're an Uber driver or a construction worker, they'll say, oh, my God, business is booming. I'm doing really well. I feel good. Those are the people that are going out and voting. And that's what matters, is do they feel like their employment is doing well, that they're safe in their job, that they're getting a wage increase, that they've gotten rid of that second job that they might have had to have because they feel confidence in the first job that they have. But right now, when you talk to the average worker on the street, they feel good and confident in the economy and the markets.
They're ignoring this impeachment morass, that's for sure. Sean Spicer. Sean, thank you for being here. Merry Christmas, sir.
Yeah, Merry Christmas. I don't see you all. Have a good New Year, too.
All right. We'll come back soon. We'll see you soon in New York. All right.